Today's video will discuss Chapter 3.3, Multiplying Rational Numbers. So we're going to start keeping in mind that a rational number is any number that can be written as a fraction. These two numbers you see here are rational numbers, because both of them are obviously fractions. Remember that decimals can also be written as a fraction. Whole numbers and integers can be written as a fraction. So there are very few numbers you've probably experienced at this point in your mathematical career that are not rational numbers. So most numbers you know are rational. So there's a couple ways you can multiply fractions. I want to show you both of them. The first one is probably a way that you've seen before. The second one is probably going to be a little bit of a shortcut that I really want you to start to focus on, or at least to try, because it will make your life significantly easier as we move towards algebra. So the first way is to multiply across the top, right? So this becomes 1 times 2, and so that is 2. Put it up here. And then you multiply across the bottom, and that's 6 times 3, and that turns out to be 18. And then this is a fraction that you can simplify. So your problem is you can't leave your answer as 2/18. So you would need to simplify to 1 over 9. I would need to divide the top and the bottom by 2. Now I want to show you an easier way. The easier way is, because I know that I'm going to be multiplying 1 times 2, and I'm going to be multiplying 6 times 3, I'm actually allowed to cancel across the fractions. So in other words, I'm allowed to divide. Over here I'm going to divide 2 to the top and 2 to the bottom, and it becomes 1 over 9. Well, if I divide 2 to this top, 2 divided by 2 is 1. And if I divide 2 to this bottom, 6 divided by 2 is 3. So a lot of people call this cross-canceling. You don't necessarily have to cross-cancel, but I'm reducing the fraction before I multiply, realizing that I really could just flip these, and I could make this 2/6, I could make this 1/3, because the commutative property tells me there's no difference if I flip the numerators or flip the denominators. So now when I multiply across, 1 times 1 is 1, and then 3 times 3 is 9. And what you can see is that it gets me to this same answer, but I reduced before I got the answer, the product. So this cross-canceling, I would like for you to start to practice doing that. As we start to get into algebra and these numbers turn into letters, it's going to be really important that you know how to do this. All right, let's take a look at what happens when one of them is negative. So I got 3/4 times 7/9. Keep in mind that this is a number, this is a number, and you hopefully know that positive times negative means I'm going to get a negative answer. So if I'm going to get a negative answer, I already know that my answer is going to be negative. There are two ways that I can solve this. One is you could multiply across the top, which gives you negative. So I got 21 over 4 times 9 is 36. But your problem is that at this point you're going to have to reduce. And so you're going to end up taking divide 3 to the top and 3 to the bottom, and I'm going to end up getting negative 7 over 12. Now, we're going to talk about this a lot in the next few videos, and a lot in class. The idea is that this number, 7/9 is a number, and 7/9 is negative. Now, I can make the 7 negative, or the 9 negative, or the entire thing negative. However, 7 and 9 are not both negative, because since this is a division problem, if they were both negative, negative divided by negative would actually become a positive. So only one of these two numbers is negative. Like I say, it doesn't matter which one you do. The easier way, I think, is to think of this as a number, to think of this as a number, and positive times negative is negative, so I know that my product, the answer, is going to be negative. All right, if you want to practice the cross-canceling, I can't cancel. First off, I can't reduce either of these two fractions. So the regular way you know how to reduce doesn't work. I can't reduce 4 and 7 because 7 is a prime number and isn't divisible by 4. However, I could reduce 3 and 9. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Positive times negative is negative, so no, my answer is going to be a negative. 1 times 7 is 7. 4 times 3 is 12. For those of you that aren't great at reducing fractions, which I believe is something that is one of those skills that's kind of getting lost, this is going to be a major shortcut. I mean, so far we've only had to reduce once, but you can get some really large fractions. I'm going to show you one on the next problem where if you don't know how to do this, you're really creating a lot of extra work for yourself. So I really want you to start practicing this shortcut we're talking about here. All right, I got two more problems for you. One, now let's talk about what happens when you get when we're multiplying mixed numbers. So I keep in mind mixed number is just a fraction. It just means that it's greater than 1. So this is 2 and 1/3. Right? This is 2 and 5/7. One thing that people do incorrectly is they multiply the numbers. So please don't write this down because I'm about to do something very wrong. And they get 4. 2 times 2 is 4. And then they multiply the fractions. And this is 5/21. And they leave their answer there. Okay, I would prefer us not to make that mistake. So you can't do that. So what I need to do is change this into a improper fraction, which means that I'm going to take 3 times 2, remember, and I'm going to multiply this, and then I'm going to add the 1. So there are 6 plus 1, which is 7/3 here. And then over here I'm going to multiply. 7 times 2 is 14 plus 5. And that's 19/7. Now, if you don't know the trick we're talking about, where you cancel out, you would multiply across, but what I'm going to tell you is you don't need a calculator on this problem. And most of you, if you were doing it the other way, would probably like one. What you can do is take 7 divided by 7 is 1. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 19 times 1 is 19. 3 times 1 is 3, and I've got 19/3. Or, as we're going to start practicing, now putting this as a mixed number. This is, because I'm going to take 3 divided into 19, it goes in 6 times. 6 times 3 is 18, so I got to add one more. Right? 6 times 3 is 18, plus 1 is my 19, so this would be my final answer. All right, now let's take one more. Let's throw some algebra in there. 1/2 AB, if A is 6/7 and B is -4/9, and this is one where that trick is going to be really helpful. So I'm going to say 1/2 times, I'm purposely going to not put them in parentheses, but use the dot as my multiplication sign. This is 6/7, and this is -4/9. Now, before I get started, let's figure out if my answer is going to be positive or negative. And so positive times positive here is going to give me a positive number. And then I'm going to take this positive number and I'm going to multiply it times a negative number, so I know my final answer has got to be negative. So before I even get started on this problem, I'm going to put my negative sign over there. Now, what I want to do is start cross-canceling. So I want to try to figure out where are some shortcuts or where are some things that I can eliminate. So one of them would be this 2, and you could either do the 4 or the 6. It really doesn't matter. Let's do the 6 so we can kind of get some smaller numbers. So I'm going to divide 2 into 6, and this is going to become 3. And I'm going to divide 2 into 2, and this becomes 1. Now I'm looking for other opportunities that I have, and I actually can do this 3 again. So I can divide 3, the 3 and the 9 would go evenly. So I'm going to divide 3 divided by 3, and that becomes a 1. And this is 9 divided by 3, and that becomes a 3. Now keep in mind, my final answer we said was going to be negative. I have that negative kind of sitting over there. I'm just going to multiply across the top. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 7 times 3 is 21. So my final answer is -4/21, or -4/21. Now if you don't know this trick, you would end up multiplying 1 times 6 times 4. You would get an answer on top, that would be 24. You're going to multiply across the bottom, 2 times 7 times 9. You're going to get a number that's in the hundreds. You're then going to have to figure out how to reduce that down to -4/21. The advantage to this trick is that as long as you cancel out as much as you possibly can, you will never have to reduce a fraction at the end, which typically saves people time and often frustration and energy. All right, well, thank you very much for watching this video. Don't forget to do the problems on the bottom of this page, and I'll see you in class.